Hello, everyone. Welcome to Weekly Manga Recap.
It was grandiose for a moment. Welcome!
Welcome!
Oh, I should be playing like light piano music, like this is Masterpiece Theater. Like
Welcome to the podcast where your two hosts can't stop going on tangents about men slamming each other for a fake sport, or talking about things they remember from the 90s, or just making fart jokes. It's the world's classiest experience that you will ever have.
Masterpiece Manga Theater should be just a series. I think we're just going to do that. It's where we put on fake British accents, and we just talk about the dumbest manga chapters as though it's a piece of high culture. I'm like, so what you're saying is they have a cat fight at a beach resort in bikinis, which of course symbolizes their vulnerability and their chest size.
Oh, that's good. Reading this chapter made me experience a great amount of. Look, it gave me a boner. Okay?
I was gonna say, I experienced an epiphany in the form of blood rushing to my genitals and making them erect. It was a marvelous epiphany.
I just won't stop talking about this. It was such a good epiphany.
It was that epiphany. Ooh.
That's the stuff, right?
That was an all-natural epiphany. No drugs needed. All natural.
All right. So, guys, it's February the 9th, 2022. It's the start of the month, which means that we get a big rotation of extra series that we only get like monthly chapters for and stuff. And we've got so much stuff to talk about today. So, yeah. So Fukakai no Boku no Subete, or however the hell, what is it? What is the English title? I forget.
Love Me for Who I Am.
Love Me for Who I Am, which is a much easier to say. I should have just gone with that. We're gonna leave that till next week, so that we don't have to rush through the discussion about it in order to talk about 15 chapters that came out this week.
And a gamut, a real roller coaster of emotions, these chapters. There's a little bit for everybody, assuming one of you was like, I really want to have an existential crisis while I read manga this week. You didn't think it was going to handle or have something for you, but Shonen Jump supplied itself yet again.
We're going to have discussions about what's going to happen when AI becomes a thing. And, you know, whatever happened in Doron Dororon. So
what happened is everyone's saying we fucked up, Nick. We'll get to it, but
how do we fuck up?
People were saying,
well, we'll talk about it.
We'll get to it.
All right. Let's talk about, to begin with, My Hero Academia. It is chapter number 342, The Extreme Quiet Before the Storm. It's, you know, it's a quiet before the storm, but it's extreme.
Extreme. I need to flip through this chapter because I know I read it. I cannot remember anything from it. And the only thought I can have when looking at the first page is I forgot the first time I read this chapter, I thought I was reading World Trigger again, just because the dude at the very bottom looks like an Ashihara character so badly. Also,
there's robots rolling around carrying boxes and stuff, so it's a lot more sci-fi.
At the speed of the sound. Got places
to go. Yeah,
follow my rainbow. Yeah. Yep, we got it.
It's what lies ahead. Only one way to find out is to turn the page. So, it turns out that some of the many people that are in the evacuee residential area near UA High are actually spies working for All for One. Sounds about right.
He has agents everywhere, Nick.
Everywhere. Uh, and essentially, they're surreptitiously exchanging some word that they've gotten from All for One, saying,
I like
"Yeah,
surreptitiously.
surreptitiously."
Yeah, I like that. That was a nice word, Nick.
I don't know.
Good word choice.
That's not a word I regularly use. I just pulled it out of the
You
back of my
said it
brain.
like you
So
did, though. That's what's impressive.
I don't know. Maybe it's because I've had to, like think a lot about honestly, it's gonna say, no matter what I say after that point, I was gonna talk about like maybe I don't know, maybe this is why I've expanded my vocabulary. But then I started saying I was like, never mind. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna stop there.
you've stopped being as eloquent as you were when I praised you.
So I think that I've defeated whatever compliment I could pay myself there. So anyway, the ingenious plan that All for One has to continue forward is, hey, make it so that Izuku Midoriya can't stay there anymore. Everyone's already like not really happy with him, so just fan the flames so that no one wants to be there. And then someone was like, well, didn't they just want him to take a bath? I feel like they already did that. So no. There was an actual plot that you guys just like keep on talking over. Anyway. We cut to 1A going into the dorms. They're tired from searching. And Kaminari, I guess his method of searching is to get in fights because he looks like he's got bruises on his face. I don't know what happened to him.
I don't know. Maybe he does want to just start fist fights.
Mm-hmm. Ida tells everyone to go to bed on the double because he's a giant stick in the mud.
Yeah.
We just cut. Fuck. We just kind of like see everyone just like exchanging like just casual dialogue. Minato wants to quote unquote swap dirty stories. Okay, moving on from that.
I don't even know what that would be. Like,
hey, so have you guys had sex? No. None of
them
have had sex, Mineta.
But I don't like. I guess it's the way an incel would describe wanting to hear about sex. Because I was like, if you wanted to talk about sex, why would you say like, "Hey, everybody, let's swap dirty stories"? Like, it's just creepy and a weird way to phrase it.
I feel like the only dirty stories they would have are ones that they've heard secondhand anyway. Is my point. So I don't know. Maybe it is just an incel mindset. And he's like, oh, surely these guys are having sex because I'm not, and I'm really insecure about it.
Because in my mind, I would just be like, dirty stories. Like, well, there was this one time I had to clean out this trash can that spilled everywhere.
Remember when our friend Midoriya came home and he was all smelly?
He was so stinky. He stinked so bad.
Guys, I took a bath. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but you're real stinky until you did, and I'm never gonna forget that.
Deku thinks about how Uraraka did a nice, cool thing, getting on top of the roof in order to tell everyone to let him inside so he could take a bath. And he's like, oh, I haven't been able to thank her properly since then. And he starts to go and approach her, but then, bah, the door bursts open, and All Might comes in, and he's like, I am here! Although he does undercut it by saying, just like every day, because, this is a more regular thing now. Tsukauchi and Nezu are with him, and they're like, well, what is everyone doing here? And Yaoyorozu says, does this concern the situation with Aoyama? And the very specific reason that I choose to point out her words is because in response to this, seemingly, Tsukauchi holds up a single finger, which is given a glowy aura in the artwork. Mm-hmm. What? Why? It's just holding up a finger and it goes, it's like, ooh.
I guess that's like the idea of saying like, you got it, or like, I don't know.
It's just odd, is all. All Might says, however, that this is actually about what comes next, and they're only going to inform select individuals for now. And he says it's time to discuss our final plans for this second pivotal war. And then we just get like a collage of, different heroes and stuff, just kind of planning and talking, but we don't actually get to hear what they say. We also see that Aizawa is visiting Kurogiri. Yeah. And also Aoyama's in a cell. Yep. And Bakugo and Todoroki and Deku hear some things, I guess. And then it's the next day, and everyone makes a big announcement because they say that Shigaraki is going to make a big move in 4 days. And so Class 1A is outside, and they all address everyone, basically, inside of the shelter to say, we'd like to thank you all for everything. And Koda says, wait, you're leaving the school again? And he says, yeah, you've given me
I took a bath. I won't need to take another one for weeks.
He says, you've given me more than enough downtime to clean myself up. See? It's all about the bath, okay? And Snipe says that the safety of the people is what is the goal that they have in mind. But one of All for One's agents just like, these fools! They could have made All for One's life so much harder by shutting their traps and keeping the way protected here. But now our mission is sure to succeed. Yay! I'm sure that that's all there is to it. You're a smart man, right?
We did it! He starts high-fiving himself.
Yes, we did nothing and succeeded.
We got them out of here. All for One's going to be so happy with us.
Then we get another little collage of the different members of 1A, like just kind of like saying goodbye to their families and stuff. And also like Nezu is saying goodbye to Nurse, and Shoji says goodbye to the animal
what I don't
girl.
Get. I don't like. I was like, oh, it's like Deku saying goodbye to his mom, and then you can kind of see like Jiro, I think, saying goodbye to maybe that's one of her parents. I'm not 100% certain.
That's her parents.
But then,
her mom's kind of hidden by her hair, and her dad is the one with the long hair.
And then you can see Bakugo like with his mom. So you're like, okay, it's a little bit of goodbye. And then I wasn't sure what nurse lady or whatever her name was. I was like, oh, guess to show that she's not going. She's a little too old. I was like, all right, a little separation. I don't know why Soji, of all people, is the one being like, goodbye, tall animal lady.
The only thing that I can guess, and this is a wild guess, is maybe it's because I think that she's too old. So let's not go there. So the only guess I have is that it's because they're both like heteromorphs. They're both like mutant-ish kind of beings, because Shoji's got the very obvious like tentacle arms and his face is hidden and stuff. So maybe he's the most alien looking out of them. Oh yeah, he's awesome looking, but that's the only connection between them I can think of. I'm pretty sure that they have never met before this. So which is why, yes, now that you've said that.
That's so much more fucked up if that's the case. Can you imagine a group of people and two black characters walked by each other and were just like, we've never interacted, but on the ground basis of us being the only two black people here?
Well, it would... keep in mind that like a chapter ago, they also made a big point of like what Spinner's role in the war is going to be.
I know,
so
but the characters don't talk. It's just, they're just like, look, we're the only two of us here. Gotta do something, right?
Also, I guess that like Koda could have been.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I was like, isn't Koda supposed to be like the
animal voice guy? Yeah. Also, very importantly, we see like some members of the crowd just kind of like looking on in approval, including the Star Shirt guy who was wearing his Star Shirt.
Yeah, so. Star Shirt dude.
We cut to 30 kilometers from UA, where the Class 1A has a makeshift fortress, which is called Troy, which, kids, pay attention in history, because you don't want a fortress called Troy.
Things go very well in Troy, if I recall.
And no one ever got inside, right? So, yeah, they're going to, I guess, just operate out of here instead of directly within UA. And the teachers are saying like, hey, everyone get in place and stuff. And Sero very ominously says, maybe this is the last place we'll ever lay our heads. And it's like, Jesus Christ, dude, shut up.
You're like, I'm sorry. Shut the fuck up. What? Why would you say that? You have so few lines in your life, and this is one of the few you put out there?
It's like, you know, if everyone's like doing like gimmick stuff like Hagakure is like, I can see that we're going to be victorious in this battle, guys. And then Zero's like, we're all going to die.
Tape. It's a vintage gimmick.
Our corpses will be very sticky.
From our viscera. Tape. Just keeps dropping that. Everyone's got to have a gimmick.
While everyone's settling in, Deku happens to glance outside and see that Uraraka has gone outside to think. And so he, I guess, jumps out the window to go and talk to her.
I like to think he just kicks it open, like shatters it through, and then jumps down. Like, hey, fuck this building.
No, Deku, the impenetrable fortress Troy. You left a perfect opening for our enemies. So they just kind of like exchanging a bit of small talk, and then are quiet. And then Deku gets to finally say, "Oh, hey, yeah, thanks for what you did." And Uraraka gets embarrassed about it, and she's like, "Oh, come on, you didn't need to bring that up." Then he asks what she's doing outside, and she's like, "Oh, I'm just looking at the city." But then it's just quiet between them again a bit, and she says, "I'm kind of weird," and Deku starts to be a little sus because he just starts talking about how great she is and stuff. It's like, all right, come on, Deku. But she says, "That's not what I meant. What I meant was, when I was shouting from the top of UA and doing that for you, out of nowhere, I just started thinking about Himiko Toga. And because we fought during Gigantamakia's rampage. And she said something, and I said something back. And I kind of figured I was just telling her stuff that she already knew, but she looked really sad when she heard it. And when you look at all the stuff that they did, and the kind of person that she is, I can't forgive her for what she's done. But at the same time, she's a person. And I realized I don't really understand her like I thought that I did. And I got to thinking, I don't know that anything about her. So I'm looking down at the city right now so that I won't forget what happened that day and what I saw. So I keep all those thoughts out of my head so they don't interfere with what I have to do." But Deku says, "No, I get you, because I saw this little boy inside Shigaraki who was crying. I don't think there's any way we can avoid battle, but I also can't ignore what I saw deep inside of him." And they don't really reach a conclusion on this, because Uraraka just says, "I guess both of us are kind of weird," and they just leave it at that, which I kind of like, because they don't come to the sudden epiphany of like, this is what we should be doing. They're just kind of like, oh, okay. And there's, that shared experience between them. Like, that's nice.
Yeah. No, I mean, we're getting slowly to a point where we're going to deal with one of the major themes of My Hero of rehabilitation for villains. And it's interesting that both Deku and Uraraka have villains that they have very complicated feelings on. Where they're like, I kind of want to save this person, but I also have to acknowledge they are a serial killer.
And we didn't get a very brief conversation, which honestly I could have stood to see go on for like a little bit longer, because Todoroki's talking with a bunch of the guys in his room. He's like, "Hey, thanks for being here for me, but I'm fine. And he just says, "Well, I've got an older brother too." And Todoroki says, "Look, your family's nothing like mine."
Like, look, man, I don't want to trivialize what you got going on. I'm sure it's dramatic, but my family are monsters.
But he says, our families are nothing like. I don't even know what Toya's favorite food is. And Bakugo's like, "It's piping hot udon." "It's okay, guys. I know what it is." And Todoroki says in response, "Well, in that case, I'll make him sit down for a bowl with me." And that's just it. It's a one-page scene, and it's kind of it's a lot more just like trying to get across that same feeling of like, it's not just I have to beat this guy, it's I win by saving him thing that Uraraka and Deku were talking about. But I guess also the idea is that Shoto has kind of just like more come to terms with that than Deku and Uraraka have. Probably because it's been so much closer to him for like his entire life. So Anyway, All for One's gonna start his plan. That's we just squeeze that into the last page right there.
Well, it's a very weird transition because Deku and Uraraka kind of finished their conversation. Then next page turn, and it's Todoroki talking to Ida and the other boys. Then they finish their conversation, and we get one panel of, I presume, the end of Todoroki's thought over top of Deku and Uraraka again.
All saying, we'll all saying the same line, yeah.
Are they all supposed to be saying it? Because there's no directional thing anywhere. But it is
I don't know.
I assume it's the sentiment. They're all thinking we're going to stop them for sure. Then blank white space, and then just All for One being like, shall we? It's like, huh. I have to wonder if that couldn't have been ordered a little bit better. But
yeah,
it was still at least an interesting last segment.
Yeah, some of the bits here and there are like, oh, that's a little bit weirdly condensed. But there are definitely some parts of this chapter that I do like. I'm very glad that we got this conversation between Uraraka and Deku, and the little comments between Todoroki and the others, because like, oh, good. Our heroes are demonstrating this, like, oh, right, they're learning how to be like good savior people. So that's nice. And yeah, it's just that it's a little bit weirdly spaced because I think I said there's, just kind of like a compilation of scenes like 3 different times in that chapter, and then it's like, oh, now we have to squeeze these actual drawn out scenes down really close, so it's a bit odd. But that's the chapter. Yeah. So
good one. Let's move on to Undead Unluck number 97. Rotten bastard.
Yeah.
So we open up, the meteorite just fell. Andy got super excited, and we have Tatiana and Shikara basically like, wait, was that what we think it was? And Andy's like, yeah, that was one of Fuko's meteorites. It was her unluck happening. And they're like, so that means she's alive? And he's like, yeah, I think what I experienced was something similar to what happened with Autumn. I think it's what you would call a soul, I think. And Top's like, a soul? And he's just like, you'll find out soon enough. So,
you mean like on my running shoes?
Like, no, there's another spelling that exists. So Andy looks to the moon and says, just hold on, Fuko. So they're like, basically a quick little explanation saying like, hey, UMA Ghost didn't eat her because she has an actual form, but once her soul weakens, and before her soul can weaken, he's going to get her back. So there should still be time. But then all of a sudden, a big shaking happens, and they're like, holy shit, what's happening? And Juez reports in saying the Earth is slowly but very surely making its way towards the sun. And she teleports in and says, this wasn't supposed to happen. We were supposed to have avoided it. The penalty for failing, revolution, has been added to this world. And they're like, wait, is revolution not the same as rotation? And she says, no, rotation is when the Earth spins on its own axis. Revolution is when the Earth itself rotates around the sun. And Apocalypse chimes in saying, in less than 3 months, the Earth will be swallowed by the sun. So Juez is like, what the fuck? Why is this happening, Apocalypse? You cheat fuck. And he's like, oh, but no, we didn't add revolution. It's just you killed 3 of the seasons, so the balance of the Earth is all fucked up. So something very similar to revolution is happening.
Why did that happen, though? Because we made it up, because fuck you.
Basically, he's just like, yeah, you should have just taken the punishment, and then you wouldn't have lost unluck along the way. And Andy just grabs Apocalypse by the mouth, and she has to be told not to kill it, basically. And I do like that Apocalypse is just like, I don't care if you kill me. I'm just an evil book. And he notes that, hey, this loop's done, because guess what? Before the next quests come out on April 1st, the Earth is going to plunge into the sun and cease to exist. That means no more rewards, no more anything. You don't have to wait for the 100th penalty to happen. The final quest, Ragnarok, is happening now. Uh-oh. Andy just notes, damn, it's freaking toying with us. I want to look for Fuko, but now it's saying the world's going to end. What am I going to do? And then Andy looks over and he says, huh? The sun? How? But wasn't it just night a second ago? And they're like, wait, has even the flow of time sped up? And then we see Unruin sitting on a cliffside with an umbrella that has an eye on it. And he says, blood, I don't need a parasol. Thanks. And presumably another UMA that functions very similar to Clothy molds into his shirt and says, are you sure? Your skin will burn. Doesn't it hurt? And Unruin says, yeah, but this is fine. I'm sure that being this sick and in this much pain holds some meaning. The master rules imposed by God hold no errors after all. Let us create a place. Join us, those who have surpassed death. We will create a place devoid of the need for impure vessels, built with the tidings that have ushered in over the course of all eternity. The 101 master rules. We will create a perfect world. And Andy looks to the sun and says, you rotten bastard, as Unruin looks to the sky, face burning off, just saying, oh yes, God, yes!
Oh, this is a great idea! Ah! Yeah, so, for a chapter that's all about how the Earth is going to go into the sun, it's interesting that the most fascinating part of this chapter to me is that no one of them knew about the concept of a soul prior to this.
It makes sense. It's just the same way we took for granted, like, the idea, like, oh, there are stars in the sky, surely in this world, until they're like, no, there haven't been until this point. Like, wait, what? Like, yeah, only Andy and Fuko would have an idea what a soul was, because Unknown was able to kind of manipulate it in some way.
Yeah, so it's just really weird whenever Undead Unluck pulls one of these things. I was like, by the way, the world's been like this the entire time. You just haven't noticed. And now here's this element that and it's really, really bad. So here we go. So, I don't really have a whole lot to say on it otherwise. I mean, there's the whole Earth falling into the sun thing, but it's like, all right, there's a time limit now, so I guess we'll see how they handle that. And that's just kind of it.
There's a lot of drama to the chapter. It's not the most significant one, but I do like what we get more of Unruin and kind of showcased in a very twisted, uncomfortable personality behind him.
All right. Well, let's go on over to Kaiju number 8, chapter 55. Hey, so Kafka's old cleanup crew is clearing up all those fucking ant corpses from that massive battle that they had. And they're kind of complaining about some of the work and stuff. And one of them, this guy with this person with this slicked back, light-colored hair says, well, I wonder what's going to happen now. Because, Isao Shinomiya got killed. Like, when I was a kid, I thought he was invincible. And there's already people who are fleeing the country to avoid another disaster by number 9. So maybe we should get out. But then Kafka's buddy Toku says, you dumbass! I'm not going to run away. Because if we run away, who's going to clean up the carcass after the defense force kicks number 9's ass?
Yeah!
It's like the most badass thing that's happened in this series in a few chapters, honestly. So, and they're like, and his coworkers are just kind of like, man, that Toku can be pretty cool sometimes. And despite the fact that he's a fucking drunk and he owes me 50 grand.
50 grand is a lot to owe somebody to still be like getting impressed by the things they say. If someone owed me 50 grand straight up, I'd be like, shut the fuck up. Stop with your cool sayings. God damn it.
Maybe they mean yen, which would be $500, which I would still be like, give me $500 back. We then cut over to the Ariake maritime base, where Kikoru is training with one of the platoon leaders, Shinonome, and they're just kind of doing staff fighting stuff. Kikoru is clearly a lot more intense, while Shinonome is clearly holding her at bay. And Kikoru is like, oh my god, she's really good at gaining distance when she needs to, so no wonder she can wield that giant firearm in battle. I mean, all right. I mean, this is... Narumi is quote-unquote overseeing Kikoru's training, which means that he's playing video games while lounging in a deck chair. And he says, I wonder when you'll get to a level where I can take you on myself. Every 1st Division platoon leader is talented enough to someday reach the rank of captain. So I'll give you about a month, the time it'll take me to beat this game, noob. In that time, I expect you to surpass all of them. How often is he playing this game? Because he seems to indicate that he plays games all the fucking time.
Quite a lot, but a month.
To beat the game.
First and foremost, by the shot we see there, it looks like he's playing a first-person shooter of some kind, which is him looking down the scope. So there's one of two things. One, he's talking about the campaign of a first-person shooter, which I have never heard of the campaign in a first-person shooter that does not, it is not relatively short. I think like maybe 10, 12 hours tends to be like the run. Or he's talking about a multiplayer mode and like reaching like super rank, like he's trying to complete something that has no end or something along those lines.
Or maybe if it is a first-person shooter, maybe he's trying to unlock everything and like beat, you know, like 5-star every mission.
But that requires loot boxes at some point, I presume. So like he's just, and you know, what if they have a holiday event and new content gets added into the game?
He's like, I gotta have the swimsuit outfits.
Yeah, he's like, I gotta get my Naruto crossover character. What's the most random fucking, my King of the Hill fucking skins have dropped. I gotta get my fucking Dale skin.
My obscure pop star character that nobody in the real world has ever heard of is in this game now. I've got to unlock them. Apparently, they're a really big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal now.
I mean, they're going to show up in the Royal Rumble, so... Anyway, so yeah, the time limit for Kikoru is when he beats this game in a month. Fake gamer. So... But he says, unless you're that caliber of prodigy, you're not going to cut it. And he tries to get like, you know, a last cool line in and say, now let's get this game started. And then his second in command kicks him out of his chair. He's like, you've got work to do too. Come on. But Kikoru is fired up again. So she gets ready to spar. And Shinomi is thinking to herself, like, hey, now that I've got a subordinate like you laying on the heat, I'm getting fired up too. So she's you know, happy to have a training partner like this as well. Yeah. Narumi's second in command says, hey, have you made up your mind about how to handle Kaiju number 8? Because Isao is not with us any longer. So you're basically going to get to single-handedly decide what's to be done with number 8. Ooh.
Well, that's important, as we find out in a moment.
But then they get a communication regarding number 8 because Kafka is hooked up to some medical monitoring equipment. And it turns out that his kaijification is progressing. That little spur or bone or scale, whatever on his hand, is not reverting back to human form permanently. And so one of the scientists is like, I mean, we don't really know how this works, but we're kind of thinking that maybe if he keeps on transforming, he won't be able to return to his human form. And then later on, Kafka is off sitting by himself. And he's like, well, I'm guessing they found out about my hand. It was like, look, that you were hooked up to so much equipment. I don't know if any of them just forgot to check the back of your hand and see this 3-inch long giant thing sticking out between your knuckles. But he's worried that he's not going to be allowed to keep on fighting, which will mean, of course, that he'll, you know, just keep on seeing people he cares about get hurt. He's like, I've got to stop Kaiju number 9. Narumi shows up and very specifically sits on a bench next to the bench that Kafka is sitting on. And he just says straight up, yeah, so we can't let you stay in the defense force. Because, you know, if you keep on transforming, you're not going to be able to return to being a human. And I can't let someone fight in that condition. And Kafka starts to get upset. But then Narumi says, that being said, let me just say this. lend me your power, Kafka Hibino. And we get this 2-page color spread of Narumi grabbing Kafka by the collar and just getting really, lend me your power, right in his face, which of course surprises Kafka. And he says, "Look, I don't care if you turn into a kaiju. If you do, I'll just kill you. But we got to take out number 9 by any means necessary. You understand that, right? The only ones who understand the burden we bear are the people who were out there that day, us, and also Kikoru." And that scientist guy, too, I guess. He understands the burden we bear. So there's no way you're going to just sit here and back out. And Kafka says, "Well, I have a place I'm trying to reach. Against everyone's opposition, the Director General helped forge a path for me to get there. I am ready and willing." And Narumi's like, "All right then, come with me. Because now it's the Defense Force's turn to strike back." And that is not the end of the chapter. There is one last note that we have to hit. Hoshina is in a secure lab somewhere. And he says, "So you're finally awake, huh? You sure had one sound nap, didn't you? Kaiju number 10. And he is looking over this huge-ass Bacta tank that has some organs and the top of a spine and the head of the giant kaiju that he defeated inside of it.
I can't help but feel like it would be a bad plan to keep this thing alive. But maybe this is how they turn them into weapons or something like that. I don't know.
Possibly. I was just thinking that. I was thinking that, okay, so is, Hoshina gonna get, a kaiju weapon, basically?
He should.
Yeah,
almost basically sold that guy. I shouldn't say sold. There was a lot of help. But in my mind, I'm thinking this guy should be more like Enadora, because the situation is exactly like Enadora for World Trigger. Like, I wanted to just...
sure, fuck number 9.
Yeah, I wanted him to get a little crab body and then walk around and be like, fuck the kaijus.
It's a little crab body that's like laptop sized, but it has his full size kaiju head on top of it.
It's just stapled to it. Just like it tips over at any slightly unlevel ground.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see what becomes of Kaiju number 10. This is probably the plot element that I'm most interested in the past several chapters of the series. Is like, oh, well, it's still alive? Okay, what are they gonna do with it? Cool. So, and I mean, all the stuff with Narumi and Kafka was kind of just like necessary, setting stuff up kind of stuff. It makes sense to the direction that they headed in. They still don't trust each other or like each other, but now they're at least agreed to work together.
All right, let's go to Spy Family.
Yes. So I'm going to try and be breezy with explaining this one, because this is a very Spy Family chapter. Like, it's just it's a farce, this is a Becky centric chapter, and Becky is watching one of her soaps, and she is seeing this scene where a guy is rejecting this girl's love because I have a fiance waiting for me out west. And she's like, I can make you forget about her. And Becky's all, and then she looks over at a portrait that is above a fireplace in a position of honor of Anya's family. And so it's, a picture of Lloyd and Yor and Anya and Bond. And so she's just stares at the picture, and then she immediately calls up Anya and is like, hey, so we just so happen to be in your neighborhood. It's okay if I drop by, right? Okay, good. And she shows up accompanied by Martha. And she's like, I've got it. I'm going to meet Lloyd, and I'm going to confess to him. And Martha's in the background just thinking to herself, home wrecking is a no-no, madam. Which is a great line. Lloyd shows up. Becky's shy. Lloyd is really nice to Becky. I do like the detail that Anya can't tell what the fuck is actually going through Becky's head, because it's not human speech that she thinks in. It's wingdings, basically. And Anya's like, what the fuck is this a code? What is she thinking? But then she realized from her behavior, is like, oh, yeah, I think I've seen something like this before because she saw, the agent that was in love with Lloyd before. So, uh, Lloyd is meanwhile just kind of like preoccupied with observing Martha's behavior, and he's like, "Oh, this is a good opportunity because like there's some connections within Becky's family that would be useful to my information gathering and stuff." We get a brief sequence where Anya gives Becky an abbreviated tour, and Becky keeps on making, I guess, not deliberately mean comments. And Anya, after 2 rooms, is just like, let's not go to anymore. Becky then senses a chance because Yora's out of the house, and she's like, I'm going to seduce Lloyd away from her. And she like gets this image of the same portrait from before, but with herself in Yora's position, which like it just so doesn't work because she's, a child. It's But then, while Becky's thinking to herself, I was like, oh, I bet even Anya would be happy to have me as her mom because we could just move into a castle together. And then we could, go take a helicopter to school and have servants prepare chores and have good dinners every day. And I just think to herself, like, man, that does sound pretty good. So she agrees to help her friend, well, silently. And she's trying to actually, like, set up Becky, to talk with Lloyd and stuff. Lloyd, of course, doesn't really take her seriously at all. And he gets like really intently into trying to like fish stuff out about Becky's family. And she's like, just getting nervous. And then Yor shows up and Becky's like, that horrible woman. I'll show her that I'm so much more deserving of Lloyd's affection. I'll use every last trick I've learned from my TV dramas. These involve taking the scrunchies out of her hair and shaking her hair out. And Lloyd's just like, what are you doing? And she's like, this works all the time on TV.
Was I not fluttering my eyelashes enough?
So then they have some tea, and which is served by Yor. And then Becky looks at the tea and she's like, wait, is this a lifeline from my nemesis? No, she's conceding because of my hair attack. Yeah, that's it. Then she says, like, are you interested in my family? And Lloyd's like, oh, no, just making conversation. So she says, what? You've just been playing with me the whole time? And Lloyd has a spit take about this because he's like, what? Wait, what? What is she talking about? And Yor, of course, is completely ignorant to what's going on and just believes in the best of everyone involved. Becky gets really, really upset. So she's like, I know what I'll do. I'm going to use the dirty trick that Penelope used on Tommy. And so she gulps down the rest of her tea. And then she's like, oh, I'm tipsy. I must be drunk. And she slumps into Lloyd. And Lloyd's like, I mean, you're drinking black tea. How can you be drunk? So he's just befuddled by this. But Yor takes Becky at her word and thinks, oh my God, did I somehow pour alcohol into a child's drink? What do I do now? And Lloyd's like, it's tea. It's fine. Everything's fine. No, maybe the leaves fermented too long. So she picks up Becky and dashes outside to rush her to a hospital.
It's the sequence after that, though, that makes me really
oh, yeah.
laugh.
I mean, this part makes the entire chapter worth it because Yor just dashes headlong heading for a hospital. But then she rushes out into the middle of a street and a car is crossing, or just as she's crossing the street. So she throws Becky forward to save her. The car hits her and she just combat rolls forward to catch Becky and she's fine and keeps running.
For some reason, such a brutal moment of like toss, bam, thump, 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 thump. Catch, let's keep going. Like, Jesus.
And the driver's just like, what
happened?
So Becky is so shocked by this that she decides to just tell the truth and says she was lying because she was like, I wanted Lloyd to go out with me. And Yor just says, oh, well, I'm just glad you're okay then. And she sets Becky down and Becky says, oh, you mean you're not mad at me? Yor says, well, why would I be mad? I mean, you're not sick. I'm just happy. And it makes me happy to know that Lloyd is beloved by so many people. He's such a fine man. And Becky's just like, oh my God, she's so open-minded. Oh no. They talk a bit more about Lloyd, and Becky says, because Yor says, oh, I don't even know why he puts up with a dunce like me. And Becky starts to, be a bit more nicer to her. And she says, but Lloyd chose to spend his life with you. How did you manage to pierce his heart? But Yor says, I couldn't do that because, Lloyd could get hurt and there are better ways to get the job done. And as for Lloyd, oh, because she's talking about piercing his heart. I didn't even get that until just now. It took her literally. Oh no, I would never stab him. He's a good guy. Yor says like, well, I can't just say that, oh, he chose to marry me because of, a secret scheme or anything. So instead, she basically calls upon something that Lloyd said while she was drunk, which she doesn't remember too well. But it's, you're strong, Yor. And Becky is shocked by this. And she's like, oh my God, Lloyd likes strong women. Well, I guess she is strong. That makes sense. So then Lloyd and Anya catch up with Becky and Yor. Becky happens to spot a test your strength test over nearby. And she's like, I know, I'll impress Lloyd by proving how strong I am. The hammer is too heavy for her because she is 6. Yor picks up the hammer with one hand and destroys the mechanism. It's not a shocking development, honestly.
Yeah.
Although Lloyd is clearly a bit concerned because, oh my God, how has this happened? So, but Becky interprets it as him being completely transfixed by Yor. So she bows before Yor and asks for instruction because she says, I want to learn to be strong like you. And Yor is really happy about this. And she says, okay, we'll do some training together. And Becky says, and one day Lloyd really will be mine. But when Martha shows up to pick up Becky and take her home, Becky is doing some martial arts training with Yor, which is very cute. So
yeah, it's a sweet little chapter.
So, yeah, I don't think we'll be catching up on that again next time we have a Spy Family chapter. I feel like that's a good one and done. All right.
Like, no, next chapter we're now going to deal. She's become a superhero. She took the martial arts lessons too seriously, and she's fighting crime now.
Oh no, it's like an Iron Fist thing or something.
Yeah. Except probably better, I would assume.
Did Iron Fist have villains? I can't remember. Okay, so
yeah, he fought
Madame Yao.
There was
right?
no. Well, I think she was in it, but he fought that guy. Remember, he was rich, like a bad guy.
Right, not like Iron Fist, who was a good guy, rich.
Yeah,
right.
This was a different guy. He was evil and rich, and not like Kingpin, who was evil and rich, because Kingpin had like a lot of layers. This guy didn't have those.
He was like an orange peel. Like the layer was already taken off, and there was just the one.
Yeah, except underneath it was poop. Like you took off the orange peel, you're like, this is just poop. But then you still were like, let me try biting into it and see if it's any,
no.
You gotta bite in. You're like, nah, it's just poop. I'm not gonna eat this. This
but bad. There's a second season.
Maybe the next one won't be so bad.
Oh, he's in the Defenders, guys. Yeah, check that out.
Oh man.
All right, so World Trigger. We got 2 chapters to talk about. The away mission test, part 15.
All right.
Guess what, guys? Things aren't going well for Suicide Squad in these mock battle things. No, it's just not going well. No. Yeah, so Mizukami is just handling the battles by himself because he's extra like that. Suicide Squad's like, well, this isn't really working. Katori is really pissed off about the gunner follow-up skill, and she's like, it's broken! It's so fucking unbalanced bullshit! And they also talk about some other game stuff. Anyway, I'm just going to move ahead. Game stuff, range combo, game stuff. So They also propose strategies. And they're like, no.
Wait, which chapter are we on?
Chapter 217.
We're on 218.
Are we?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be why. Okay, hang on.
I was gonna say, I was like 218 is
All
218
right.
to 219 were the new ones.
There's an OG squad match. Ikoma is like, oh man, it's just so bad. Okay. Anyway, they got a question for a special assignment. All right. So they're like, okay, so there was on the last question, there was a thing that said we should talk stuff over as a team, but this one just says to, answer the questions. So there's a big difference there. And so they talk about that briefly, and they're like, oh, do you think that means that one person is supposed to sit out from the battle sim and answer and just tackle it themselves while the rest of us do all the battle sim stuff? And so Sua's just like, yeah, okay, Mikomo, you're on special assignment duty. So they discussed this briefly, and Sua's like, look, the only two people we can really spare in the battle sim are me and Mikomo is better at this kind of stuff, so he should do it. And so Osamu agrees. He says he'll get it done. And so they start working on that stuff. Osamu quietly thanks Sua for doing this. Of course, they had actually discussed something like this happening previously. Then we cut around to a couple of different squads.
We cut around to every other squad and see what their strategies are, and most of them are very different, and that's the big question mark of it. Who's doing it right?
Wakamura, he is just kind of like, oh man, they're basically just telling us to choose whatever squad member is the most useless in battle, and I feel like I'm just going to have to like sit out and do this, but then I'll look bad in front of everyone because I'll just be admitting that I'm the worst person in combat. And Hisato, who you could have told me was a character that didn't exist before this moment, and I would have believed you. Just like, hey, maybe I should just do it. He clearly sees the Wakamura is like not having a good time, so he just like takes it off his hands, and everyone agrees to this. Okay. Mizukami's like, I've got the next match off, so I could do the assignment on my own. Whatever. Hey,
I do like this dude, who really just seems to be like, these fucking people are holding me back. Every single one of them is holding. Not, he doesn't say it, but he is just soloing almost everything. This is the first time he's just like, here, I'll fucking delegate something, I guess.
So he does basically just leave it up to everyone to decide who's going to do it. And in this case, they actually have two people do it. And then he just like leaves it out for everyone else to discuss, and then Arifune is the one who decides what to do, and he's just kind of like, yeah, it's a good thing that I had a captain here to just like take care of this boring stuff so I could get back to doing the game. In Kiyozoe's squad, they basically has someone like he basically just says like, okay, well, Somei would probably be good at this, but we need her as the operator. So then instead, some guy who I don't know but makes weird faces is like, well, I could do it because I've just been standing near Zoe, so I could like just have him use my unit. And they're like, no, we need you for this. So instead, Zoe will take the assignment and you'll control him. And then since the units will stick together, that makes sense. Okay. Then we do Murakami's squad. And there's a lot of like, oh, I'm not good at this game. So guys, I don't know. Eventually, Murakami's like, all right, we got a break during match 8. So we could just work on the assignment as a group. But they're like, yeah, but then we'll have to really rush it. But they say like, if we work together, we can finish quickly. Their operator says, everyone in this squad is kind of like too thoughtful and considerate. Like everyone's just like, being really humble and stuff. So I don't know about this. Nina Mia is just like, Emma, you do it.
You're doing it. Hey, as captain, you do it. And that's the end of the conversation.
Well, user
starts to be like,
hey, come on, guys, like Ozma would be really good at this. Why me? And Inamiya says, you don't go on the fucking away mission, right?
I wish he had dropped the F word. That'd been so cool. You want to go on that fucking away mission? Huh? With your girlfriend? Do the goddamn report.
She's not my girlfriend. Look. Grow some fucking balls and ask her out. And 2, fucking do the assignment because I fucking told you to.
Yeah, she's not. Why don't you do the goddamn assignment, buddy? before Mr. Steal Your Girl over here fucking does it. Because goddamn namesake.
I'm 12.
And I'm a fucking 80-year-old man in the body of a 15-year-old, so it all works out.
Fuck all of you. Do your work.
Do your goddamn missions.
But he does, like, he really gets under user's skin, but he's like, hey, this is your chance to fucking prove yourself to leadership, so take this seriously. Yeah. That's an order. Such a douche.
I love that he keeps dropping. He's the only person who has to, like, really establish that he's the captain. It's the captain's orders, which I understand Border is a military organization, but it's populated by, like, preteens.
Teenagers, yeah.
Like, it's shit like that. So, like, a lot of them are just, like, in the clicky bullshit. They're just like, well, like, I'm the goddamn captain. You goddamn do the special report.
In Utagawa squad, Yuma starts saying, like, I mean, I wouldn't mind doing this, but... And they're like, yeah, you're not very good at the long-form questions and answer stuff, are you? Their operator, Shiki, starts to volunteer for it. They're like, yeah, you're our operator. We need you for that.
It is blowing my mind how many... I know they say the names a lot, but it's blowing my mind how many of these characters' names you're getting.
Well, I'm just looking further along in the conversation to where they say their name. Kotaro, whose name I might have remembered, but we'll never know because it just says it right there multiple times in the conversation. He volunteers for it. He's like, hey, I'd like to just try this out. And they start to question, like, are you sure about that? But Utagawa's like, yeah, okay, you've got it. And then he says, Kakizaki actually gave me some advice. He said that if you ever volunteer for something, that I should let you do it. Aw. So, and they just don't have that. But before he heads up to do the assignment, Yuma says, oh, by the way, before you go, you should think about the fact that the rank wars are designed as practice for a mission in the neighborhood. And you should try and work that into your line of thinking. So then, I don't know this guy's name, the long, shaggy, black-haired dude.
That's Utagawa.
That's Utagawa?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, whatever. I got them mixed up. Sorry, I don't remember World Trigger characters' names. There's too many of them, guys.
To be fair, Utagawa showed up in the draft. Like I think he had been mentioned at one point, but that was us actually meeting him, and he has said maybe 2 lines of consequence. So I don't blame you for not remembering who Utagawa is.
Yeah, the downside to cutting between 52 characters is I don't settle in with any of them. So, but Utagawa says to him, it's like, hey, you sound really confident about that advice. Why is that? And Yuma just says, like, oh, it's just something I thought of. But he thinks back to the conversation that he had where he was told, like, oh, yeah, your dad was the one who came up with this entire border system. So then we cut to where everyone looking over.
Oh, wait, maybe I had it wrong that's not Utagawa. I thought Utagawa was the Rambo guy. There's too many fucking characters. I don't remember. Know. His name was also with a fucking U. Now I had to type this up. World Trigger Rambo dude.
Rambo dude.
I didn't get any fucking results.
Unbelievable. We see that Jin is talking with Usami and some others about stuff. But then he has to go because he has stuff that he's doing in this part of it. And also he is having meetings with leadership. And when he's talked to about that, he's like, true elites like me get dragged every which way. But then when he's by himself, he says, since I can't go on the OA mission personally, I've got to make up for it elsewhere any way I can. So,
Nick, I'm sorry. I'm the big dumb idiot here. It's Urushima, who is the guy with the shaggy black hair. I'm the big dumb idiot who got Utagawa and Urashima mixed up.
I think that's forgivable, in my opinion. So
stupid ass fucking names.
It's too many characters. Part 17! So Osamu has to work on the special assignment while everyone else is battling, and he just, like, thinks about a bunch of stuff. Okay, so... but the thing that he thinks about a bunch of different points. Look, I'll just wait until they actually cover some stuff later on and when they're actually discussing everyone's answers. Okay, I can skip this because they just cover it again. Meanwhile, Squad 7 actually wins a battle. It's against Wakamura, who sucks. And there's a brief moment where where like after they celebrate, they kind of look over at Katori, and she's not actually all that happy, despite the fact that she's been really worked up about all these matches up to this point. And she's like, "Oh no, it's fine, it's great." But she thinks to herself, "God, you were really weak out there, Rokuro." She's disappointed in her squad mate. So, then they bring up like, oh, hey, a lot of the ideas that Mikumo gave us are actually seeming to work out great. There's less miscommunication and stuff. I know Samu looks pleased to hear this because they're just talking nice things. I did
something.
They're saying nice things about me as if I'm not in the room. Suuk encourages him to get finished. And Osamu's like, yeah, I can't get distracted. Then we cut to the leadership desk to everyone discussing how everyone handled that special assignment that they gave. And the first thing that they discuss is how everyone handled who would do the assignment and how much time it spent them to do it. And I do like that Ninomiya is like the shortest one there. It's just like, Ninomiya just fucking told Yuzuru to do it. That's Kitazoe took the longest time, Wakamura took the second longest, and Sua's squad is actually pretty quick too.
They're pretty quick. So I do love that Ninomiya was just like, do the goddamn mission, and he's the quickest one on there. He's like speed running through fucking conversations. Do it. I said so.
Although
you could have shaved some time off by being a little bit more like that. He was told like you could shave time off your score by not being polite. He's like, oh, I wasn't ever going to use the word please. That was never even an option.
I do like, however, that Mizukami, aka Mizukami, like basically just like, hey, there's this assignment, and then someone else said, hey, you guys do it, and so he got the second fastest time. So, and some of them also talk about like, oh yeah, there were also some people who actually, caught on to the ulterior motive we had in mind on this. Kitora, again, looking good during this because she says like, hey, so, we've got little time to talk about this, so I'm just going to take on the assignment so that, because there's all sorts of risks that could come into play if we take the time to talk about this. So I'll just do it, guys. You will, and with them, we'll save time on it. So they go with that. She got a lot of good marks for it. And then they note that the captains of squads that argued lost points, especially Wakamura, who Maki gave him a -3 because she was just like, you've got no presence, no it factor. You're never going to be a WWE champion with that.
So say you're going to be chasing a 24/7 title before you know it.
Oh man, I was like, guys, I just don't know if this guy's going to move the needle. They're not a future world champion. Who cares that Danhausen debuted? I just don't see him being a future world champion.
Yeah, shouldn't even bother with it, really.
Who cares? So, and then there's also like some mixed results that happen with Kitazoe and stuff for like the people who actually had like conversations and stuff. So the more complex conversations got more mixed results. The more direct actions got a lot of positive results, and the people who just were wishy-washy got negative results. It all makes sense. Then they're getting points on the actual written scores. And they note that Kitazoe and Yuzuru did not do well on the assignment. So good job, Yuzuru. Not going to get to go on this mission with your girlfriend at this rate. She's not my girlfriend. Exactly. So they have like a set of like 4 different basic scoring criteria that they do it on. One of them is skills being honed are going to be honed better because the rank wars are more complex. One is that there are downsides of rank wars matches between just 2 squads. One is discussing relevance of these factors to defense missions, and one is discussing relevance of these factors to away missions. Okay. And so other than Yuzuru and Kitazoe, just about everyone managed to at least hit the first 2 points. There were also some agents who received bonus for the relevance to the away mission. Osamu and Kitora are among them. And then there is point 3, we get Yuba and Sasamori for, got some points for this as well. And they're like, oh yeah, it's nice that they actually had, all this stuff in mind when they were thinking about that stuff. And then they call attention to Oji and to Osamu, who brought up the way that the rank wars are managed. And so they come up with all these different ideas of like, oh, this makes it so that, if the squads get split up a certain way, that you could actually balance them out. Osama brings up the point of like, simple squad versus squad matches are going to leave a lot of agents being left over, and it makes it more difficult to actually put together more matches between people and stuff. They're like, huh, yeah, I guess all that does actually make sense. It's a good thing we did this. So
yeah.
But again, if none of these people were the ones who came up with the system, maybe that's why none of them had thought of this point. So yeah, then after this, we just cut ahead. The matches for the day are done. Suwa squad managed to get 2 wins, 7 losses, and 1 draw. So not a great result. And the chapter ends with Suwa saying, Day 2 scores just came in. Okay, Day 2's done! My God!
I will say this, because we've talked kind of negatively about World Trigger the past couple months or so. This was the first time in a while where I came away from the chapter saying, like, I actually kind of like this. At least, I guess, in particular, in comparison to last month's, or last time we had a chapter, which was almost unreadable, where you're just like, I don't care about this game and its mechanics, I don't. This one actually kind of got us a little bit invested in certain characters. It showed off a little bit of their personalities. I'm not sure still if Wakamura's ultimate role is to just be sort of like the goofest Osamu's gallant, essentially, like to be like, this is what happens if you're a complete nudnik, or if like somewhere down the line Wakamura really shows what he's capable of or something like that. I'm kind of curious to see what that end is. But the big thing that I have, fuck you, Ashihara. Just tell us what the scores are.
Yeah.
The cliffhanger of the scores are in is so infuriating, because unless the next chapter opens and they're at the top for some reason, it's not going to be like, I'd rather be like, oh shit, what does that mean? Or something along those lines. Like, there's no way I'm going to open up next chapter and be like, no, a pleasant surprise. It's just me sitting here green like, fuck, I forgot. We didn't even know what, like, I don't have anything to really look forward to next chapter. I'm like, just tell me now so I can be excited to be like, what? Why are they there?
I feel like the only thing I'm confident in is that Wakamura squad's going to be bottom of the fucking barrel.
I don't remember what they were before. They weren't great, but
they were, I think, second to last.
Yeah, they have to be last. They have to.
All right. It's the big chapter of the week.
Is it?
Eden Zero.
Chapter 178. Rebecca and Lobelia.
Oh, man. These two, they go way back.
Way back. So we get a color page, I believe, to celebrate the anime gain a season 2 renewal, which I have not heard great things about the anime, but
me neither.
Perhaps I've been hearing it from people who aren't big Eden Zero fans. So maybe that plays into it.
It's a cool cover page with
it's weirdly seductive.
Yeah, that's like the sexiest thing that's actually happened in Eden Zero.
Exactly. So Lobelia is like, hey,
I'm gonna take this glove off. Yeah,
I need to talk to you, Rebecca. And I guess she kind of just like, not shoes, they walk away, but she's like, I'll have this conversation without you, Happy. And Rebecca's like, hey, so what did you need to say to me about you dying? And Lobelia says, when B-Cubers say they're going to die, they mean they're going to retire, obviously. Which, I know a lot of people got, like, when they live read this chapter, they were super frustrated by that line, because it felt like a huge cop-out to, like, last chapter, I'm going to die. And by die, I mean retire as a B-Cuber. But it felt pretty clear to me that wasn't ultimately what she meant, but it is a dumb explanation to add in the chapter. So they're like, hey, you're like, it's not so bad that you had to stop. Like, Lobelia's like, you could, or Rebecca's like, you don't have to retire. And Lobelia's like, no, to me, stagnation is as good as death. So I want to settle things before I die with you. And Rebecca notes, like, there was nothing for us to really do. I mean, I still have nowhere near the number of subscribers that you do.
So, to recap, beginning of series, Rebecca, tiny number of followers. It was a revelation whenever someone was actually a fan of hers. Lobelia, huge beekeeper following. Got to like pull off sweet pranks, bro, and like get to have all sorts of people working with her. Current times, Rebecca, thriving. People recognize her. She gets, she was chased in the streets.
I believe she was described as, like, when her intro box came in, it was mega popular B-tuber Rebecca or whatever.
Lobelia now, shadow of her former self. Nobody cares about her anymore. Like, when she's talked about, it's like, oh, remember that girl who used to be famous. But she's got more subscribers than Rebecca still?
Would
pick one story.
I would love to shit talk that more, but I feel like there might be some truth in that, in thinking like, I don't know, there were a lot of like really popular YouTubers in the early days who like kind of stagnated, and I feel like if someone was like, hey, it's Smosh, I'm like, I know that name. I don't know who you are, but sure. How's it going, bud? Or I think you did like a Pokemon song video or something like that.
Okay, so here's the thing. I agree with you, but then if we accept that, then that means we also have to accept that subscriber count is a poor measurement of success level on popularity, which means the series needs to stop touting it as such.
Oh, 100%. As we'll get into...
power levels are bullshit.
Yeah, as I plan to get into at some point during this chapter, how this series still handles B-cubing is still a baffling mystery to me. We also get a shot of their butts saying, we had a feud in the past, didn't we? Maybe in the past. And I need to say this now. I find myself so bothered by the fact that because of the way Hiro draws these characters, it looks like they are all wearing really ill-fitting swimsuits. Like, yeah. I just keep looking, I'm like, that's not how the bottoms are supposed to fit. Like, not at all. Like, that's halfway down the butt at that point. There's like a lot of room left. So Lobelia is just like, oh, hey, don't you remember all those mean things I did to you? And we get like a montage of them, and Rebecca like, you sure did cause me a lot of grief. So Lobelia says, all right, so send that rage back at me, and turns on her B-cube and just starts trying to punch Rebecca. And Rebecca's like, wait, you mean a fist fight? And Lobelia says, a cat fight between bikini-clad babes. What could be more photogenic?
That's right.
Yeah, Vince McMahon in the corner is like, good. Put it on the second hour segment.
I see a pool over there. If one of them got thrown into that pool, the ratings.
Lobelia says, hey, would you fight back kindly? I don't want this to turn into a bully video, which is weird because that has to be the entire way her channel has survived, because every video we've ever seen her done is her just ruthlessly bullying poor Rebecca. Rebecca adds, I've done a lot of martial arts training and ether gear fighting over the last 3 years. An average girl isn't going to stand a chance against me. So she tries to like go easy on Lobelia, and Lobelia docks and fucking like punches her in the face really quickly, and then kicks her in the face, and she's like, yeah, I never told anybody because it doesn't match my influencer persona, but I'm an expert in the dancing Sakura style of karate.
All right.
Okay. And Rebecca is immediately like, I
have time control powers.
Yeah. Rebecca's like, I give up. I don't care. And immediately I tried to think of what submission hold immediately Lobelia locks her into. Like, it's basically just like, I guess like a chicken wing or something like that, right?
Well, is she grabbing her arm?
It's her arm and bending it backwards, like over the back.
I actually have to zoom in on this. You keep going. I'm just gonna see if I see where she's clutching.
Rebecca is basically like, I can't let you do this, especially because Lobelia. It's how close your face is to the screen now.
Well, I can't see because Crunchyroll's manga reader is shit, so I have to. Hang on,
I'm just gonna look at my phone.
Okay.
All right. Keep going.
Labilia makes some comment about, all right, after I've beaten you, I'll find your friend Hoppy and do the same thing. And Rebecca's like, all right, don't fucking talk about Happy. I'm gonna beat you up.
Don't you talk shit about my cat.
They actually have like a 3 panels where they actually are having a pretty intense fight with like headbutts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then we get a weird shot where Labilia has grabbed Labilia has grabbed the inside of Rebecca's bikini top, and then Labilia turns it over and is like, I can't help myself. It's just so much fun. And Rebecca's like, you made me the laughing stock for your entire career. And Labilia counters with, a bottom tier B cuber should consider herself lucky to be singled out by such a star. They continue to have a fight. Rebecca says, have you ever once considered people's feelings? You mock them for your own entertainment. Do you have any idea how humiliating, how painful, how sad it is to have those horrible experiences put on video and displayed to the whole world? What did I ever do to you? And Labilia starts crying. She says, I'll tell you what you did. You started all of this. Seeing your video made me want to be a B-cuber. So they stop fighting. And then Labilia continues saying, hey, when I was a little girl, I was sick. I spent a lot of time in a hospital bed, and I turned on a B-cube to see you in the video. And it was crazy because I was seeing this little girl the same age as me trying so hard. It stole my heart, and I realized I wanted to be like her. And I was. I became really successful. I was very lucky. I was trying to be like you, and then all of a sudden, I was miles ahead of you. And I realized then I started to become a bad person because I had lived up to my ideals. So why weren't you? I kept seeing you doing all these crappy videos, wearing a silly smile, and I just lashed out at you. Like, you know, I told you I wanted to let it all out, and that's ultimately why I wanted you to start fighting me, because I wanted you to punch me because I deserved it. I'm sorry I put you in a chicken wing hold or whatever.
It's called a grounded top wrist lock.
I'm sorry I put you in a grounded top wrist lock. It's just I wanted you to do that and open up or whatever. So Rebecca is like, oh, well, you know, that's fine. Hey, you were sick as a kid, but you're okay now. And Labilia is like, no, I have the sad anime girl disease. It's incurable, and I will die at some point. It's presumably sometime soon.
Sometime soon.
But there's no details to it. So she's just like, you know what? I'm glad I got to see you. Now I have no more Rebecs. No more regrets.
No more Rebecs.
No more Rebecs. I got the last one out of my system. So I'm going to go die now. And Rebecca's like, wait, no. You should see the ship doctor we have. And Labilia's like, no, I appreciate the offer, but I made peace with that a long time ago. And Rebecca's like, no, you don't understand. She's magic. She can cure shit. She can cure shit you should not be able to cure. So I'm fairly certain she could do it. And she also goes and hugs Labilia and says, we've only just taken the first step. I want to walk together as friends. We then cut away to the Eden Zero, where Shiki is contacting Holy saying, hey, I've made the decision. We are going to join you, but on one condition. Until the battle on Lendard is over, you will stay aboard the Eden Zero. And Holy's like, they want me Overwatch. And Shiki continues, hey, if you can't do that, the deal's off. We'll still beat Ziggy, but we're not going to do anything with Crow. And Holy just says, I accept your terms. And that's where the chapter ends.
So that's whatever, that's set up for the next stuff. Obviously, the main stuff going on here is this seemingly an attempt to actually resolve things between Labilia and Rebecca, which has kind of been a background thing that's been going on throughout the entire series up to this point. I feel like that would be an interesting development if they actually were able to actually change that relationship, because we have actually seen a fair number of times where Labilia has just been a real jerkwad to Rebecca for no fucking reason. That said, I don't know if I believe it yet, because fool me 5 times.
I will say, ultimately, I like in theory what this tries to do for Rebecca and Labilia's relationship, as it is an interesting layer in Rebecca to have this character who's very personal to her, who was an antagonist to her, who their relationship has changed over these 3 years. Rebecca has skyrocketed in popularity. Labilia hasn't. There is this weird disconnect that we don't ever delve into what really goes into making BCuber videos, what made Rebecca popular. There feels like there was room for a really interesting discussion, because maybe the reason why Labilia's channel stagnated and Rebecca's skyrocketed is because a lot of the events in the Owl Cosmos was publicly shown. And people decided they liked that Rebecca was this freedom fighter who was helping people and doing these positive videos. And they were suddenly not a big fan of Labilia bullying and pranking people or something along those lines. Like her realizing her personality was the reason why her videos are stagnating, as opposed to just generic. It's just not anymore. And then add on top of that, and I have sick anime girl disease.
Yeah.
It's incurable. I'll die any day now. And it's just like, all right, man.
Honestly, out of anything going on in this chapter, that's the part that makes me go, I don't know if I believe you.
Yeah, like there's so few. Oh man, if it was just, because there's some people who are like, I hope Labilia joins the crew. And I'm like, the only fucking way I want her to join the crew is if she joins as just the fucking biggest cunt on the planet. Just an absolute bitch. Like, she has to go back to her old personality. Like, they have to meet a new group
She's
of people.
just a jerk to everyone except Rebecca, whom she's cool with, and Shiki, whom she's mad crushing on. And everyone else like, you're such a weird asshole.
Like, when the crew meets a new group of people, Labilia's reaction should be to very cruelly prank them. Like when they meet Oasis members, she's like, hey, everybody, I just met a group. Like she puts her VTuber on. She's like, I just met a bunch of big, dumb nerds, and I'm going to show you where their secret base is. Follow me. We're going to do an unboxing video of this organization, starting with this big, dumb cat over here. Look at his stupid face.
Honestly, if like that kind of thing, like we're kind of turned around and it's like, oh, well now, but she's, allies with them. So she uses her, it's a sweet prank bro ways for good. Could actually, I think, potentially be a kind of satisfying turn for that to take.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if I necessarily believe it, but just because I feel like every time that this character showed up, it has been to either mock Rebecca or to pretend to be friends with Rebecca and then immediately turn on her. I don't know about the whole disease thing. It seems like just like a way to okay, assuming that she is being sincere, it feels like the I'm gonna die thing is just to kind of like make it easier for the audience to get over what the bad stuff that she did and forgive her, which seems kind of underhanded to me. The problem that I really have with this ultimately, if we take her story as the truth, I feel like the idea that is going on at work here, which is that Labilia had this parasocial relationship with Rebecca, and then that took a turn because the true Rebecca did not match with her image of her. I think that could be, potentially a really interesting thing, but it doesn't quite fit in with the context of what has happened in the series. I see the kind of actions that she took towards Rebecca, and then that being the explanation for it. And it doesn't seem to really click in my mind together. It doesn't seem like that, if that was the cause behind it, then what she has done before this point doesn't seem like it should have followed from that. I think that it would have been interesting if like that had always been the plan, and then to see what her behavior was as a result of that influence on her. But I feel like this was just kind of an explanation. And there was admittedly a retcon or a face turn reasoning behind it that at least does tie into something that social media personalities do have to deal with. So it was an interesting idea. I just don't know if it was incorporated well into the greater context of stuff. So
yeah.
And meanwhile, they had a bikini fight, and it was
yeah, that's really where you like. I will give Hero credit. He could have made the fight a lot hornier.
Oh yeah,
like it could have been full on like softcore fetish, like fucking bikini fight nonsense where like, I'm going to pull your hair and tear your shirt off or whatever. Yeah. Although she does actually tear Rebecca's shirt off at one point. But it was already buttoned open anyway. So I guess it doesn't really matter, but regardless, props where props is due. He only made it mildly horny. Now, granted, the art in this chapter also was not very good. I found quite a few points where characters just look off. The anatomy looks strange. Things, I don't know, maybe Hero just didn't have the time to draw it all, or maybe orienting both girls in super tiny bikinis made it so you really couldn't get like great shots to
restrictive.
Yeah, you made it so the anatomy is kind of on Front Street.
Anyway, let's not talk about the anatomy of this chapter any further because
let's talk about Dororon.
All right, it's chapter 9. That kind of organism. Ginchiyo was looking on as Dora and Kusanagi beat up and kill, but don't kill, the big Mononoke that killed Dora's mom. Yay, they did it. And Ginchiyo says, those two keep exceeding expectations, whereas I, doesn't finish the thought, the Mononoke is still alive, and it starts going, ow, it hurts. And something from within inside it goes, oh, shut up. And some fingers splorch out from inside of its belly and wrench it open, and blood goes flying everywhere. And a Super Saiyan 3 comes out.
So, Nick, I have a comment already.
What's that?
Is this series named after the stupid sound effect that happens when characters show up? Fucking, that's so... Because I was just like, why does it say Doron Dororon or whatever over his head? I was like, oh, because that's the sound effect when they show up.
Yes.
All right.
That's been in like every chapter. That sound effect.
I paid attention to that. All right.
I know. Right? So in response to its belly literally being torn open from the inside, the giant Mononoke goes, ouch! What just happened? You know. You just got chest burster. It's fine. Yeah. It's fine. So the Super Saiyan 3 with weird black snake heads coming out of him, just kind of there, and yawns. Apparently he's been sleeping inside of this guy for a while. And so they're like, what the hell is this guy? Is he a human? Is he a Mononoke? And they conclude that he's a humanoid Mononoke with absurd amounts of power, and Ginchiyo is still paralyzed from the needle, so that's no good.
Uh-oh.
So the humanoid Mononoke looks over at Dora and is like, wait a minute, you're a human? Dora's like, yeah. And he looks around, he sees buildings and stuff, he's like, wait, am I in the human world? Yeah. It's full of humans, right? Yeah. And the humanoid Mononoke goes, Juice! Throws his arms up. This guy's immediately the best character in this stupid series. So everyone just looking at him in shock. And he says, well, where's the biggest city? I mean, I guess Musashi no Kuni Kamui. Yeah, where is it? That way, I guess. It's a really far away. All right, thanks. And he turns, and all of his snake heads coming out of his body light up with energy beams. And he's like, yeah, well, if it's over there, I just got to clear a path. Ginchiyo happens to be in the path, so that's no good. And Ginchiyo has a moment to think, oh, I'm going to die right before Dora manages to get in the way, deflects the blast that's heading right towards her with Kusanagi. And it just, it's fine. It just blows up all the buildings behind her. So, no one else got hurt.
Yep.
And that miles and miles of buildings that just got reduced to rubble.
Evacuated, Nick. It's like Batman versus Superman. Everyone was out of those buildings. Or Man of Steel, until Batman and Superman happened, and they're like, some people were in those buildings because now Superman is a bad guy.
Superman didn't deliberately kill anyone, though, except that guy whose neck he brutally snapped like a twig.
Nick, what else are you gonna do? He's General Zod. You got to kill him at some point.
Oh, you got to
right?
kill him. You could, he could have, just like, I don't know, just told those people to, like, I don't know, move another 10 feet, but snap his neck. He's fine. Anyway, so the humanoid Mononoke finds Dora's actions to be hilarious. It's like, oh my god, you nearly died. Why'd you do that for? Is it like, if she dies, you both die too? And Dora's like, losing a friend hurts more than dying. All right, Dora.
What a fucking, it's a very sweet sentiment, but you're such a fucking nerd.
But then he goes on to also say, that's the kind of organisms we are, you idiot. Who talks like that? So, The humanoid Mononoke says, weird. The whole point of other people is to be used for your own enjoyment. Toying with them, killing them, stuff like that. And Dora's like, I'll protect them, no matter what. Genjio's still paralyzed, and she's really pissed at herself because she's so weak that she can't move. And then the humanoid Mononoke's like, all right, well, you're going to protect them no matter what, right? Well, let's try this again. And he starts getting ready to fire a bunch of beams. But another samurai appears to attack from behind, and he has to dodge away, and he chops his arm off. Ha! And it's a samurai officer whose name we don't know, and he's here to fight this guy. Samurai officer, that means he's a powerful officer samurai who outranks Genjio, right? Oh, no, bad. Man, shit's getting serious now. Okay.
So, Nick, I mentioned before that some people were saying we fucked up.
Why is that?
Because apparently this series isn't dropping like the rock that we thought it would. I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. This might be another hit.
How?
Look, it's too soon to say, but its first couple chapters are ranking pretty well. Got a color page. Things are looking optimistic. Now, in return, Ayashimon, bottom. It's sinking. Now,
I'll take it.
Now, that's only once. We'll see what happens. But, you know, I just want to note, in my mind, we were like, hey, this doofy fucking series or whatever, like, we'll just run it until it dies in 19 chapters, which I still think it will. I'm fairly confident this is more editorial trying to push for something than actually people catching on. Because I've yet to see somebody be like, oh, I fucking love Dororon. I love fucking dude and animal thing. But maybe oh my god, their names. Who remember these characters' names? But it is
like 7 times in this chat.
But we shall see. We shall see.
Oh my god. That got me so bad. Hang on, I gotta write something down so that I don't forget it in a little bit.
But
all right, guys. Well, here it is. Happened a little bit quicker than I thought it would, but I guess we knew it was coming, especially after the last chapter. It's Magu-chan. God of Destruction, chapter 77. Final chapter. He was dreaming. Yeah, it's the end of the series. This is the final chapter. And,
So, Nick, I want to note, I posted a tweet about this, but I want to reiterate. Last week we were talking like, oh, like there's going to be one last chapter of Magu-chan. And I was jokingly thinking in my head, like, man, wouldn't it be like dark if the next chapter was all about like Ruru getting old and dying and Magu just being left all alone? And I was like, that's like a weird energy to leave it on. Like, this has been just like a pretty sweet emotional series. Like, it's not going to do something like existentially dark as that. And then that's the whole goddamn chapter.
Oh, most of the chapter. So, all right, let's just go through this. So, we start off the chapter with Ruru just going to school with Magu, and she's riding her bike with Neputaku, and she meets up with rather she's riding her bike with Magu, and she meets up with Ren, who's got Neputaku in his bike the same way, and they ride to school together. And we got the narration that says that in a quiet rural town somewhere, in this land where the whims of evil gods hold influence, the god of destruction continued to watch over a girl for the sake of granting her wish. As their mundane daily lives went on, the whole gang graduated, went to high school, and started down new paths. The seeds of distress that infested the town were eradicated, and as the two took to destroying the worries of others, they met countless people. And we get, brief collage of just, everyone doing kind of like just normal stuff. They like bring forward like their ideas for making a new club, and Ruru's is like the worry destroying club, and Magu's is Destruct Club.
Yes.
They do some like cleaning up stuff. We see that the Book of Best Friends / the Book of Blood Disciples, Blood Oaths book. we get this very brief little note that there were challenges on the way, like the Chaos Cult, Agents of Mayhem, and also fights with new superior beings. And there is like...
I want to know about Scruffy Scottish Dog Monster.
It looks like...
just talk like this. Magu-chan, your gracious opponent is finally arrived. I'm going to sniff my butthole now. Like, oh, he's a dog, but he's like a little Scottish gentleman, too.
Yeah.
Pip, pip.
Oh, boy. More time goes on.
I had many great adventures with Magu-chan.
That's right, he did.
Some would say we were best friends, although we started as mortal enemies, but that is what they say, right? Enemies to lovers.
Also, he got his peanuts. He got his peanuts. Let's not leave that out.
First, I thought he said penis. I was like, you know what? I hope he did get his penis.
I just love it.
This thing is great. I can take it everywhere.
And it turns, as time goes on, we see that it wasn't just one best friends book that everyone wrote their names in, but several. So they made so many friends together.
Like 100 deeds for Eddie McDowell.
That's right. And he definitely did all 100.
You got them all. We just didn't see the other 70.
There were goodbyes. We see Nabutukus. He's going to leave friends, family behind, and he's going to go and start up his new mad eatery by himself. He's setting off on his own. But he's also sad because he's leaving his friends behind. Aww.
He's going to do real well.
Yeah, that's great.
He's going to do great.
Well, he is. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
And then we cut forward, presumably a lot, because things just like accelerate here very suddenly. It's like, and then they graduated from middle school. Here's their time in high school. Now they graduated from high school. Now they're going to college. Now Rue's getting married. That's the next thing.
She has a kid. Several kids. The kids are old now.
Yeah, it just goes. Boom, 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 boom. It goes from like, now we'll go over the next 3 years to now we'll go over the next 50 years just in one go. There are a lot of nice little details that I really appreciate in this sequence. First off, that baby is holding Magu's arm. Aw. But next, Magu is a stand-in for Ruru's father to walk her down the aisle. Isn't that fucking adorable? And another detail that I do actually really appreciate is that we don't ever get a really good look at Ruru's husband. It looks like it definitely could be Ren because he's got the same hairstyle as Ren, but Ren's hairstyle is really generic. So it's one of those things where it's like, it could be Ren, maybe not.
I will note that from what I understand, and by what I understand, it's what Kirby Mon says in our Discord, there's going to be another chapter in like Jump Giga or something like that that's supposedly about Ren. So maybe that will go to either confirm that is Ren, or maybe he just dies and that's a different dude or something like that. I don't know. Like he was just like, fuck it, I'm going to be a rock star in Canada or some shit like that. We never see him again.
Yeah. I just really appreciate the note of like, hey, if you really cared about, this relationship, you could assume that it's him. Or if you really didn't think that those two were right for each other, they were better off as friends, you could just believe that too. I like that. Rue's family grows up. They have their own family. They all have very identical looking children. They all look like all of Ruru's genes passed down to these kids. And once again, she was alone. The god of destruction continued to watch over her. He never stopped. We cut to Ruru's on her deathbed now. There's so many best friend books that have been filled up by all the friends that they've made. And Magu is still watching over Ruru while she's on her deathbed. And she says, "Can you hear me, my disciple? The sunset was glorious this evening. The stars in the sky shined exceptionally." And Ruru just says, "Magu-chan, thank you for destroying my loneliness." And she takes his little tentacle in her hand, and she says, "You made my dream come true." And there's a beat. And then Magu says, "Wait. Please, don't go yet." She peacefully fell asleep and breathed her last breath. While her family grieved her passing, the god of destruction disappeared without a word. We turned the page, and Magu's just got this one big tear dripping down his eye. He's so sad that his disciple's gone. And then the fucking holy knights show up and they're like, we're gonna put you in this gem.
They're like, sucks, bitch. Sucks, she's dead. Now get back in these gems.
They make a big thing because Inera says, like, well, you know, Ruru was the only one restraining you, so you could be a threat to humanity. But Izuma is clearly also really upset about this. It's clearly him, like, and he's all old and stuff, and he's now the leader of the Holy Knights. And he's got a sealing gem, and he's like, look, I've got no choice. You know, let us seal you away.
Looks like Noshu Koshu was also next to him.
Yes.
Interesting.
But Magu just says, a fight will not be necessary. I have grown a little weary. I think I'll rest for a while. Muscar's there too. And he says nothing. So Magu just says, take my seal to the depths of the ocean, where the light cannot reach. And Nosukoshu gives Magu a little parting gift, putting Magu to sleep and saying, sweetest dreams to you. And then Unera seals Magu away. And Magu is left by himself in a sealing gem, sinking into the bottom of the ocean to think by himself. I was not awake for even 100 years. Yet my days had never been so busy. None of it went as I'd wanted, and yet it was not so bad. I will dream a dream of the simple days I spent with you over and over again. And then Ruru appears inside his dream and is cuddling him. And she says, this might be the first time I've ever seen you sleep, Magu-chan. I'll wake you up for once. And Magu, of course, is ecstatic. I thought you were dead. But Ruru says, well, I'm no ghost. You were crying because I died, weren't you? I always knew you had a soft side. Magu demands to know if he is, in fact, dreaming. But Ruru says, who knows? Maybe the reason why I'm here is because you watched over me with that big eye of yours and never forgot me. I'll always be with you. That way, you won't be lonely anymore. And Magu realizes, this is no dream. Deep in the recesses of my destructive eye, you do indeed still exist. And then Ruru takes Magu's tentacle hand and leads him out of the seal and says, let's go for a walk. As in the real world, the sealing gem washes up on a beach and is discovered by someone, and it breaks. And who should be there to greet Magu but someone suspiciously identical looking to Ruru, whose name is Ruri, because everyone in this family is very inventive when it comes to naming their children. And she greets Magu as Magu-chan because, again, she can't say his full name. And she says, I live in the middle of nowhere and don't have many friends. Do you want to play with me? And Magu says, you wish something of me? Very well. Then grant me offerings, you foolish lowly human. And the chapter ends with Magu being held by his new disciple on the beach.
Yeah, good for you.
By the way, in the middle of nowhere apparently has an eatery called the Mad. What is it again specifically? It's the Mad Eatery in their permanent residence. You didn't catch that?
I know. This
So
chapter,
Neputsuku's got his own place.
this chapter didn't really make me cry, but the notion that Neputsuku is like a world-renowned chef might get me there. I'm so fucking happy for him. He did it. Aww.
Oh, so first off, yes, Neputsuku apparently got to live his dream, and he was successful in just the way he wanted to be. Perfect ending. Doesn't matter anything else that happened.
Yeah. Meteorite
Secondly,
crushed everyone else. Who cares?
Secondly, this ending didn't emotionally get me. Like I didn't read this and I was like, I read this chapter rather, and I just felt like, yeah, that feels fucking right.
Yeah.
And it was so satisfying because it wasn't the way I felt the series would end, but when it ended this way, I thought this is the way that it always should have ended. It feels like. Um, it's interesting, like this really made me think a lot about, like, because we didn't really touch a whole lot on this theme of, like, what to get out of life and stuff, except in very brief moments with the series we get a little bit more serious. But then it really did start to come up with the introduction of Yuppie Susu. And when that happened, and when Ruru kind of laid out, this is what I want from life, you got this feeling like, okay, yeah, this kid's got it figured out. And then, of course, when she dies, you can tell, like, yeah, she had this life that she wanted, and she had Magu watching over her for all of it. She was happy. But because the Chaos Gods are basically timeless beings who don't grow up, Magu is still kind of this little kid who doesn't really understand that still. And it's not until he has this epiphany inside the Sealing Gem that he learns it. It's like a kid learning about death, basically. And then to have it end on this optimistic note of, okay, we can make new friends even after this. Things will be happy for him again. It's really, really nice. And I really do appreciate the notion that Magu has learned, which is, even though Ruru has died, she's still with him. And I think that's the only thing you can really, take from when you're facing the inevitability that, people around you are going to die one day, is that, yeah, but if you are close to them, then part of them will be with you forever. And that's all you can really have. So this is a really good chapter.
I feel like I have to do a joke or something. No, a lot of people had a lot of understandably very emotional reactions to this chapter. I am with you where I did not quite have the same emotional reaction, but part of that is dysphoria. I feel like crying is a very difficult thing for me to do. So
That's okay.
There's a part of me, I think, that's a little frustrated because this chapter I feel like should have gotten me there, but it didn't. So it's a part of me that's a little bit annoyed by that. But I think you kind of said it exactly, where you're like, this is like the perfect way to end this series. Like, just every part of it feels right. And I know a lot of people in our chat are saying it. I imagine hopefully it'll also be a voice to some of the people who are saying it, who are listening outside of this. But you absolutely killed it, just narrating Magu's parts in it of this
thank you.
wary god who is so just so defeated after the death of essentially his world. It's a very, very beautiful story.
His best friend, his mother, daughter, like they were family. Like, yeah.
And I love the little teases for, like, hey, here's what maybe could have happened if this series had went longer. Here's this different design. Here's, things that could have happened between all of them.
I strongly suspect that the series was ended before the initial plan runtime was going to have, because not just, the little tease of like, oh, here's, another thing that could have happened, like the introduction of like another, superior being in this little collage, but also like just certain things that, like, were kind of like just introduced and then never really came up again. Like Sarah, it's like she gets introduced and then the series almost immediately ends before she gets to do anything else. Or like, there was the whole thing with like
I imagine
the Muskar's relationship with the human whose form that he took.
We never got that entire, but there was definitely, I think, intended to be. I don't know how much longer the series had planned to run, but I feel like a Muskar backstory was definitely intended to be part of the story at some point. Maybe more about the Holy Knights, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that the series left a big impression. The mangaka for me and Roboco and Yabuki both posted up like images of like them crying. Aww. Or like one is fucking Roboco reading the chapter crying as Magu sits on her head doing the hand thing. And I was like, that honestly got me more emotional than the chapter did. Because I was like, they're like saying goodbye. They started at the same time. But it's definitely, I think, a series that is special and one that I feel like I can recommend to so many people. I will say this. I've had a lot of people who are outside of manga read series. And almost every person I talked to said they love Magu-chan. Like,
Magu's great.
I had somebody who doesn't read manga at all. She got into it specifically because she just wanted to connect with me. And she was like, I want to read all these series. And I was like, what'd you think of them? She's like, I like Magu-chan as her clear way of saying the rest of this is too weird for me, but Magu-chan is great.
Yeah, it's I do wish we'd gotten a little bit more of Magu-chan because it was very, very consistently just, a nice change of pace. It was different from everything else that we covered, but it was almost always fun and good. And as much as, we harp on, it's like, well, Unero's ruined the chapter and stuff. It was just nice to have it be part of our regular routine. And I'm going to miss it. And I know that there's like a whole bunch of stuff like people hoping that, maybe, it can be adapted into an anime. But for what we got, I'm very, very happy with it. So, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Let's talk about the big series this week.
Yeah. Well, we got to talk about a series that apparently didn't end at 19 chapters because this isn't the final one. It's PPPPPP. So,
wait, what's your?
Okay, so as we have been doing while we've been covering, I have a wrestling quiz for Chris with an alliterative clue. 6 P's.
Funakai.
No.
Damn. This is like my Wordle. Every week I start with Funakai and then I try to go from there.
Will be the wrestler or wrestling act. Okay, here we go. I'm very proud of this one, but I might need to like send you how it's actually written out. Okay. Primal Perry. Prehistoric pareja. Primary peep.
Oh, it's Christian.
You're 1/3 right. Here, let me send it to you.
Is it The Brood?
No, let me send it to you.
Okay.
Look at the clue.
Okay. Oh, it's Jurassic Express.
There you go.
Yeah.
So this one I actually split up the clues by the semicolons. So
go.
Each one refers to a different member.
Okay, I got it. I like that. I like that one a lot.
One for the AEW.
I think that's my favorite way of describing AEW to people is like, oh, there's like a wrestling dinosaur. He's like a champion right now. People love him.
He's partners with Luke Perry's son, who is a Tarzan guy.
Yeah,
All right, so it's chapter proper 19, the dreaded beginning. So I don't remember anything that happens in this chapter.
I remember this one being a little frustrating because like 100 characters talk and do random things. And I was like, as I read it, I was like, Nick doesn't like this chapter.
Mimin talks briefly to
Furiosa, I think is her name.
Yeah. Furiosa talks to her. So, but then she just like says like, oh, you got cute pigtails, and just kind of like goes boing boing with her pigtails. Don't do that to people. And then just walks past her.
Yeah, and then runs away. Goes, yay!
Yeah, that's it. Her bodyguards / caretakers also coming through the window that she came in through, and they're like,
that's my favorite part is they all enter through the window. And they're like, hello, nice to see you. Hi, excuse me.
She goes down the corridor. She's looking for Miloli, and she runs into Dada Sensei, and she's like, oh my god, who's this guy? He's bald. And he's like, I'm not bald. Yeah, you are. What the fuck are you talking about?
Maybe he's like, I shaved. It's different.
See, it's I shaved, but there's this little area on the back of my head.
Homer Simpson is a bald neck. He has 3 hairs, and then like a thing that's around the side.
Right. So later on, she's chilling out, eating a bunch of rice balls, and Lucky comes in with Otaku guy. Anyway, and she's like, "Where's Maloli? I want to ask her something." And then she's like, "What do you mean she went out for a bit?" Okay, I'll wait here. And her caretakers are like, "No, you've got a schedule you got to keep to." And she's like, "What? Boo!"
By the way, for the people who aren't reading PPP, Nick is handling only like 1/5 of how random and annoying Mimin is in this moment. She literally walks down the hallway, goes, slams open a door, goes, who are you? Then hard cut, and she's just eating like fucking 7 cookies. She's fucking downing them.
I guess they could be cookie. Yeah, the texture of them is they look like rice balls because of the black patch, but those have got to be like cookies, I guess, because they're like flat. Anyway, then she just like out of nowhere says
to Lucky, coasters.
These cookies taste weird.
These cookies taste like shit. Those are coasters. And then she gets up and jumps out the window. And none of that scene is out of character for Mimin. I want you to know you can't put it under most like WMR created character. That's 100% what she would do.
Then, as she is wont to do, she says that something out of nowhere, which is, "Hey, Lucky, I went to see my mom. I didn't know she was in the hospital. Why didn't you tell me? When will she get better?" And Lucky is just kind of like, "Before I had seen Mimin at the electronics store, I had spoke with Reijiro, because this is the perfect time to have a flashback. You know, is when you've just been asked a question, you've got to answer it. Yeah. So Reijiro, he's on the phone with him. He's like, "Hey, do you think I should tell the others about Mom? Because I want to tell them that she wants to see them. So could you give me everyone's phone number?" And Reijiro says, "Well, if we tell them, Don would come if he doesn't have any piano work, I think. Also, Don's appearance 1,000,000,000% is modeled after Beethoven with the hair. That is, if he remembers. And Sora Chica would come, without question, but Fanta and Sikato might not come." And we just get a shot of, I guess, Fanta, who is surrounded by women, and he's just like, "I hate that woman who abandoned me, and it didn't give me mom issues at all, right, girls?"
Yeah, right, ladies.
"Let me put my head between your breasts." And then we just get a shot of Sikato from behind as they're doing their hair, and they say, "We don't have anything to do with them, right?" And then we get a shot of Mimin, and Reijiro says, "Yeah, Mimin would go, but she'd cause a ruckus in the end. They'll find out I've been in touch with you, and then Dad will figure out what happened in Japan. He's always billed us as the Otogami sextuplets, so Dad would never let you take part in the piano world. He'd quickly crush and expel you with his keyboard irises." This guy loves piano too much, okay?
I almost wish in the background, to fully establish his character, there was a picture of him slapping one of his kids or something like that, which would just really show that this man has 2 things he enjoys in life, is being a bad father and pianos.
He just has like a framed picture, a framed family portrait where he is just slapping all of the kids at once.
That's their Christmas photo. All the kids like to the side, and just him like, yes.
Reijiro offers to talk to Sora Chica and see if they can work something out, but then apologizes and says, "I wish I was stronger." But Lucky says, "No, I'm the same as you. I can't do much either." So, but then he's like, "Yeah, that's right. I need to win, not just to stop Mimin. I need to win to become stronger." Because this is a shonen series, and these kinds of sentiments are universal to shonen series, even when they don't make sense in universe context. Of, I need to get stronger by playing piano good, which will bring my family. I don't know. It's weird. But Lucky just says, in response, in the present, to Mimin's question, we'll talk more after the competition. So don't talk to Dad about me and Mom yet, okay? Although he is upset about this. Without strength, we can't be together like we used to be. Or you could just, I don't know, get a good lawyer who will, like, I don't know. I don't know how child abuse cases work in Japan, so maybe that's not going to. Is it just related to Japan? His name is Lucky. Are they? I don't know.
Family themselves live outside of Japan.
I don't know. Mimin's just like, okay. And then Furiosa comes in, and she thinks to herself, well, that's Mimin, but she must be different from before, right? That's what I thought at the beginning of summer. And then summer came to an end. Or Lucky's thinking that. I don't know. It looks like she's thinking it because she's the perspective character we focus on and stuff. I thought she had changed, but I learned the hard way that wasn't the case at all. It's time for the music tournament concourse thing. Yeah. Maloli is there, and she observes that Mimin Otogami's free-spiritedness has gotten worse. I'm looking forward to it. Her carefree ways are gonna kill her.
I really expected the way that this chapter was going to end was like above her you'd see a piano was falling and about to crush her. Like that's what, like, they went literally, she doesn't pay enough attention and she's just gonna get killed by like a situational hazard, essentially.
So I don't even know how Maloli's reached this conclusion. Is it that because Mimin's not there at this time and everyone else is? Because Furusu's playing the piano while everyone's thinking this. So
I think the idea being that maybe she's not putting as much work in or something like that. I don't know. I guess we'll see next chapter, but there's definitely like a curious conclusion to draw from that.
It's odd. Anyway, that's the chapter.
All right, we really got to pick up the pace, which is a shame because this is a pretty huge chapter.
Oh,
Dr.
jeez.
Stone.
Oh, Dr. Stone!
Time to get stoned.
Z equals 228. Life Stone. They found out who Y-Man is.
Nick!
It's
Koseki!
No, it's not.
Oh, I didn't read the chapter. Who is it? What other human character could it be?
Well, there's the problem. It's actually,
it's an artificial. It's like a robot person. Like it's robot.
Kind of?
It's Robot Senku from that side manga, right?
No.
Is it that gun in space of Toriko?
It's kind of. It's the Medusas, the petrification devices. It's just a bunch of them, and amongst this huge horde of them, there's like, oh, well, there's one there that I tossed to the Medusa we brought from Earth. It's just floating there, and they realize, like, wait, it's mimicking my voice, right? So the only ones who could have tried to screw us over with that false information were you guys. And Senku says, I know you can talk using radio waves. And the Medusa device inside the capsule goes and then says, yes. And everyone realized, like, oh, the Medusas, the devices, are the machine life forms that form Y-Man.
Bum, bum, bum. Oh, sorry. Doron Dororon.
And then the capsule Medusa device says, do you want to die? So, sorry, the capsule Medusa device says, do you want to die? And they're like, huh. And they all kind of realize, like, oh, it's like repeating itself. It's said this stuff before. And then Chrome starts to go, hang on, maybe the Medusas aren't trying to destroy us. Maybe they're trying to petrify us all so we won't have to die. And Gen starts to get an idea. And well, he's on Earth, and he pulls like a present out of his sleeves, and he says, so I don't know whether these guys are capable of being honest with us, but this is a negotiation, so we should offer them a gift. But of course, they didn't bring anything that could be conceived of as a gift. So Senku's got to think about this stuff, and he's like, "What? Well, there have to be rules to the way these things operate. So they're alive, which means that they consider living and surviving to be very important." And so he starts to address the Medusa devices, Y-Man, and says, "With the level of science we're at now, we can't create more of you. However, we can replenish your life force by providing new diamond batteries." And then they're like, "Okay, yeah, but so that's our gift, but we request something from you in return. Quit firing off the petrification beams all the time and trying to put her to stone." And the capsule device says,
"No deal." Beep boop.
"Fuck off." It says, "Why?" And there is a click from one of the devices, and Stanley starts to react, but they say, "Stop that. For moments, be still." And they realize, oh, the Y-Man's not a single entity. It's actually a bunch of these things interacting with each other. It's not a monolith. So Senku's like, "Okay, I don't really know how this works, but I'm thinking that you guys have to have maintenance done on you. And the petrification beam serves that purpose." And on Earth, Zeno has like, "Oh my God, yes! The Medusa devices offer everlasting life and dangle that reward before intelligent species to spur it to better itself and march toward progress. They're actually mechanical parasites. What truly elegant organisms." And one of the devices says, "Yes, accurate that is.
Why do they
Now,
talk like Yoda?
Comprehensive
Correct,
communication."
that is.
Ooh, I'm weird talking because I'm a
Parasites
Medusa.
we are. Very
Ooh.
studious you appear to be.
Comprehensive communication of information about turning you to stone several millennia prior will be divulged. All right, so it's a very nice sci-fi idea that I don't think actually had any build-up to it whatsoever. I could have missed something at some point.
I would disagree to a certain extent, because this chapter did make me put a lot more into context that rather significantly pushed upon notion of like, oh, hey, because we have the Medusas, we essentially have immortality. Like, none of us can die anymore. We'll just keep everybody alive. And that seems to be kind of a central thesis of what these things are actually talking about. That question like, it does make me sit back, and the initial question of like, do you want to die, being initially phrased, and it's like, oh, there's kind of a new context to that question now.
Right. It's I feel like we need to know more in the next chapter for this explanation. Personally, I feel as though, like, okay, so if these things were trying to push humanity to better themselves so that they could, create a fuel source for them with diamonds and stuff, then why did they petrify all of humanity so that they couldn't do anything?
I definitely do have questions like that. I'm assuming the next chapter is going to be there to reveal and try to answer some of those questions.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah. So, but it seems like, okay, I need to know more from this. This is an interesting idea. I would have liked to have seen, like, for example, like, if they honed in on an explanation of like a parasitic relationship at a prior point in the series, just so that you could draw the parallel even later on. It's just kind of, there's some aspects of this that seem like they've been introduced rather suddenly, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, totally understand that.
All Speaking of suddenly,
yeah, let's mash our way through Mashle, Magic and Muscles. Mash Burn Dead and the God of Water, Chapter 95. Thirds. It's the ultimate magic. Surprise. Domina has thirds magic, so he activates Water's thirds, Poseidon's Angus inclination, and I do like that Mash just says, "What now?"
What are we talking about?
He's too strong. This spell has literally turned Domina himself into water. He can become water itself. There's no way to compete with this level of power. Mash is trying, and there's also a gimmick that if you attack Domina, it will do nothing and will slowly incur the wrath of Poseidon himself. And there's a little crown with markers that goes up if you try to attack Domina. And, you can't even hurt Poseidon either, so it's not like the previous with like Capaccio Liu Yang, where it's like, I'll just break the statue. You can't do that. And now Poseidon's wrath is going to happen. It's a big, super tall laser beam. Haha, Mash is done for. But then Mash punches him a bunch. We don't see exactly what happens, but Domina feels like he got punched a bunch. And he's like, what was that sudden shift? And Mash slowly gets out of the water and says, Pops told me never to do this, but seems like I don't got a choice. Time to release my full power. I don't know why.
It's doing something with something on his wrist that goes click. So.
Yeah. I only do that because I just like the way he says, like, Pops.
Yep.
I had to run through the chapter very quickly. It's actually a pretty sweet chapter, but we are rather low on time, and felt like we cut some corners there.
The Elusive Samurai, Chapter 49, Extraordinary, 1335. They've got to get through a checkpoint, which is going to be really, really bad because, of course, they're traveling with Hisue, who's just got, his identity that can be easily read from his face. So they're going to go through a town that they pass through, get some food and stuff. Everyone's kind of excited to be kind of touristy, but Shizuku brings up that they don't have a whole lot of spending money on them, except Gemba does. He's got so much money because he just kind of twisted Yorishige's arm until he got it because he was like, yeah, I gave you that information about the Tengu. Give me some money. Fubuki's like, let me some money because I want to eat. I want to eat food, please. Let me have money. And everyone's just kind of like, he doesn't owe you anything. And even Tokiyuki's like, it's your own fault. You ate everything already. So Genba gets some food for himself and then eats it. And then he's like, I love living it up while others go without, because he's kind of a piece of shit. They make a note of like Fubuki is missing. It's because he's gone up into the bamboo woods by himself to train, and he's really worked up because he's so hungry and he's just like really mad. And Genba watches all this and he's like, man, he looks like he's starving even though he's only missed one meal. I bet he's hiding even greater ability. So he snatches some fruit from Tokiyuki and then offers it to Fubuki, who digs in immediately. And Genba says, thank me by teaching me. The Tengu said my skill was just a trick and I was no match for him. What do you think is the difference between me and him? And Fubuki admits, well, I mean, I don't really know anything about shinobi skills, but they should display immense power or they won't seem extraordinary. Your specialty is making mischief that slows down the enemy, but that won't work on a battlefield where everyone is willing to die. You have to convey the feeling of, if I wanted to kill you, I could, for your enemies to take you seriously. So Gemma's like realized, like, okay, so if I develop a lethal technique, it'll make my bluffing more effective. Makes sense. So then they bring up the point of like, how are we going to get everyone past the checkpoint, though, with Yasuie and stuff? But Tokiyuki says, I've got faith in my uncle. He's pretty extraordinary, too. He's so extraordinary that it overcomes whatever his face may reveal. And then we go to the next page, and Yasuie just is bawling his eyes out, snot's flooding out of his nose. He's just like, please! You gotta let us through! Oh my god, please! And he's just so pathetic that it completely overwhelms the idea that, oh, he's part of the Hojo. It's just, he suddenly becomes much less readable because he's so convincingly pathetic looking. And so the guards are just like, oh my god, just go. Just go. Just please leave us alone. So by lowering himself, Yasuie is able to get everyone past this point, and this is portrayed as, an honorable thing. Like, he pretended to do all sorts of awful stuff that was, dishonorable, all in order to serve the house. And so he was very underhanded, but he did stuff for a good cause. And hey, isn't that nice? Genba is like, okay, so those two, survive and thrive in crisis. I wonder if that's what Fubuki meant by extraordinary. I need to develop something extraordinary myself to dumbfound that rotten Tenku. And they all ride off together. Hurrah.
Yes.
Also, there's a note that Genba is like playing with his face and his mask a couple of times in this. It doesn't seem to lead to anything directly here, but I think that might be setting up whatever his extraordinary ability will be later. So.
Yeah, I like how they keep playing with the idea that there doesn't actually appear to be like a real mask, like playing with the illusion of it, so to speak. Pretty cool. All right, Black Clover, page 322, the vice captain of the Black Bulls. So Asta has barely managed to get up. Leashed is there, Nature Boy Ric Flair, and it's just like, hey, we need your fucking magic, but like, dude, you're dying. You can barely stand. So we're gonna have to do this together. Yuno and Marileona are trying to do the best they can. Lucifero calls out Adramelch, which is apparently the other demon's name, who's basically like, hey, you fight these two, like distract them. And Adramelch or whatever is just like, nah. It's kind of more fun watching you do this.
Nah.
Maria Leona's body is breaking apart. Yuno seems to have also hit his limit. Nature Boy Ric Flair activates one of his forms, creates an opening. Asta's going to go in. Nature Boy Ric Flair is thinking, yep, this is going to be in exchange for my life. I'll stop, but it's pointless. Lucifero stops it. Is about to strike down Asta, but Nature Boy Ric Flair leaps in the way, and he's like, so this is my limit, huh? I'm on my way to meet you now, Morgan, to apologize. And then there's a pause, and you hear, "Way, finally meet up again, you pull this? Don't you go dare dying on me, Vice Captain." And Yami is up, and he has made a sword, presumably out of the World Tree magic, or something like that, because Asta has his sword, but he has something else resembling it. Looks kind of twig-like. Yep.
Hey, Yami's here to save the day. That's
kind of cool. We haven't gotten Yami in a very long time.
Yeah. It feels like a deserved big appearance to be the savior kind of point. Especially after, everyone out of their way to save him, he gets to return the favor in the form. One Piece! Chapter 1039, top billing. So, there's a 2-page spread of people exploring the jungle. Isn't that nice? So we start off with Momonosuke. He is above Wano, and he's successfully managing to get Onigashima going backwards. So, hey, making progress. Gonna keep it from falling on the city. Good. Inside the dome, Big Mom's been knocked on her ass by that giant bull charge thing that Kid did. And everyone's like, oh my God, Big Mom's down. Yeah. No, she's still up. They got to keep on fighting her. Law and Kid get into a bit of an argument over who, I guess, gets credited for what and who gets to order people around and stuff like that. Yeah. So, Law is being a little kid basically about this because he's like, hey, you did your attack after mine, and that makes it like you actually get the credit for the kill. And Kid's like, who cares? Oh my God, we are going to die. So then Big Mom gets up. Her arm is busted, but then she just holds up her arm and just injects life back into her bones. And she's actually just using her abilities on herself, and like I guess parts of her body are now have souls in them and are speaking. So yeah. She gets out Napoleon and combines Napoleon with Prometheus to make a huge laser sword slash thing and just cuts apart Kid's bull in one blow. And Kid, of course, is just like, who cares? It's scrap metal. I don't care. And Big Mom says, hey, listen up, brats. We've sunk hundreds of people just like you into the sea. We've been reigning as emperors for decades, since the days before you were weaned off your mother's milk. Kid jumps from the top of his bull and assigns magnetism to Big Mom's head and then to the wall. And so she collides with the wall. And then Kid gets set to just charge her with the bull again. And instead, Big Mom just wrenches the wall around with her strength and blocks it, using it as like a shield. And Kid's like, this is bullshit. Hacks. She calls upon Hera and does a thing. I don't really know how to describe it other than a big attack. Law does some switchy, changey stuff so that a big piece of rubble falls on her head. And then he makes his sword get longer and stabs down through Big Mom and then through the floor and through the armory where Yamato is and then through the bottom of Onigashima, and it goes all the way down into the ocean and then keeps on going down into the bottom of the ocean. Okay. And then he declares puncture ville, and it sends out like a drill pattern shockwave through the sword going all the way down and makes a big hole below them that goes all the way down. And so Big Mom tries to get
this is exactly the way you had to try to decipher this chapter.
And then Kid turns all of the scrap metal into a big ass gun and shoots Big Mom, who at this point is like, oh, fine, you think you can beat me? I'm Big Mom! And Kid shoots her with a massive cannon, and she starts to, I guess, fall as Law declares your era is over. And that's the end of the chapter.
Yeah. I have very little, like, I know I've kind of always had very little idea what it happens when Law uses his powers, but this chapter in particular, I don't know what happened. I'm sorry. I'm a dumb person. I don't know what he did. He did something. And I guess it helped beat Big Mom.
I feel like, if anything, this fight has allowed me to kind of get Kid a lot better, because it's just like, yeah, he makes big guns and bulls and just stuff. He just makes stuff out of metal.
Smashes metal together and hits people with it.
It's cool. Yeah. Whereas with Law, it's like, what did he do? I don't get it. Yeah. It was a fight scene. Yeah. All right. Let's move on. We're done. Yeah. We're done now.
Let's wrap this up. MVPs.
Or my favorite chapter was Magu-chan got destruction. I mean, it's just good. It was good. It was a very good ending to the series. It made me sad that there's not more, but it also made me feel very content inside. I felt like a more whole person after reading it.
Yeah. I give mine to Dr. Stone.
Okay. My MVP is, it's going to be weird, but honestly, I kind of feel like I grok with this guy. I'm going to give mine to the humanoid Mononoke from Doron Dororon, because he's just a big piece of shit.
It's not a bad pick, to be completely honest. It is a pretty cool one. Hopefully we'll learn his name and we'll get to add that in there. I guess I'm going to go with Naputaku, because it's probably going to be the last time I can give it to him, but I'm happy he got to open his restaurants all across the world.
Yeah, or at least in town. He got a permanent restaurant, but got to open his eatery. Yay!
Yeah. And it was a pretty clean sweep for Magu-chan from the audience, winning both MVP and series of the week. Not a perfect, as there's always one or two people willing to be shitting the soup. That's not a phrase, but I'm really tired and I can't think of the actual colloquialism. But good stuff. A lot of people really, really enjoyed Magu-chan Nichos.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for Weekly Manga Recap. We record the show here on twitch.tv/RoloT Wednesday evenings, usually starting around 7:30 Eastern Time. To stay updated on when exactly the show is going live, you can follow us on Twitter @TVMR Podcast, @RoloT, @NickFTime. And we will send out a tweet letting you know when the show is going live. As well, it gets posted in the Discord channel, where you can also participate in discussions regarding the series when new chapters are getting released, as well as the recommendation that we're currently working on. There's a chapter for that. And there's also bi-weekly game nights. Lots of great stuff going on there. You can also use that to find the Google Doc maintained by Ninja X3i, which keeps track of all sorts of helpful information about the series that we've covered, series that are currently being recommended that you can add your vote to, stuff like that. We want to thank everyone who supports us on Patreon, patreon.com/weekly manga recap, where you can get stuff like the monthly other recap and other bonus discussions that we have that we'd like to record for you guys. And we want to thank everyone who helps to make the show what it is, including Steve Man, who does title cards for some of our recommendations. Check out the that one that he did.
One had to be censored. It had to be, look, not by my choice. YouTube wouldn't allow it. All right? These things happen. It's too spicy for YouTube.
Check out his artwork wherever boobs are allowed to be drawn on the internet.
Sometimes they won't. Sometimes they won't do it on YouTube.
Twitter.com/SteveManArt. And we also want to thank, of course, Ninja X3i for maintaining that aforementioned spreadsheet, and Wizzy Del Cheddar and Mallow Jack Stills for creating the opening sequence that you can see on the video versions of Weekly Manga Recap. Those are on youtube.com/Weekly Manga Recap. You can also check out audio versions of the show wherever podcasts can be found: iTunes,
Spotify, Podbean, all sorts of places.
Rhapsody,
LimeWire, fucking Friendster. You can find it everywhere.
Download.podcast.website. I don't know.
AOL.com. You can find it on the front page. Keyword
Angel
manga.
Fire.
Yeah. Our GeoCities page is still running strong. Check out our Zanga Live blog.
Oh man, if there's anyone listening to this who's under 20, they're gonna be like, "What the fuck are you guys talking about?"
I'm sure they realized we were just old shitheads for a long time now.
Well, that's it. Thanks everyone for joining us. We should be back to talk about Love Me As I Am next week. So.
Yep. Have a good one, everybody.